fun. So let's dive in right away.
Kubernetes, what springs to mind?
Is it the booming business around it? Is it the high velocity of new features? Is it the collaboration between people from all around the world? Or is it family and friends?
It's all of these. In this talk, we would like to take a moment and focus on the people.
For us, Kubernetes is all about its community.
The amount of contributors to Kubernetes has grown rapidly over the past 5 years. This graph, for example, tells us that to date, there have been more than 31,000 unique Kubernetes contributors.
Yeah. And when we have a group growing this rapidly, the group needs a strong ground in common values in order to maintain a strong culture.
We're going to start with the most important value of the Kubernetes Community Values, inclusion. The Kubernetes community is dedicated to provide a good experience for all its community members. We want you to feel welcome and happy.
One example of this is diversity scholarships. In fact, both Lucas and I got a scholarship for our first KubeCon, something we really appreciate. It allowed us to connect with the community on the next level and contribute back. CNCF has been world leading in getting voices from all around the world represented during their events. During the last 7 KubeCons, $770,000 has been spent on getting 309 existing and new community members to join us here. Yeah. And here at KubeCon, there are also many dedicated events for sharing stories and getting up to speed in the community through mentoring. There is the diversity lunch, where anyone can join for discussions and pair programming. There's also the networking and mentoring session, where mentees are paired with mentors for onboarding discussions.
Really successful projects like Kubernetes require different perspectives and different skill sets. And these voices can only be heard in a welcoming and respectful environment. Hence, we show respect for the time and effort put into each contribution, regardless of where this contributor is on their growth path. And community leadership is earned through quality, quantity, and duration of contributions, but respect, however, belongs to everybody. All the companies and individuals using Kubernetes, they are depending on a healthy core project, which means that effort put into, for example, stability, interoperability, and security have multiplied impact across all the end users' machines. Hence, this investment in core Kubernetes is returned many times over.
In other words, individuals gain reputation through their work that benefits everyone, and companies through their commitments and resources provided. We have 2 examples of this. So something we see over and over again in this community is contributors switching companies, yet continuing to work on Kubernetes just as before. And this is important because it allows for individuals to grow, and that helps the project succeed long term.
Companies investing heavily in making the open source code rock solid are rewarded in media and the broader ecosystem for their commitments. In this slide, for example, we see examples of how the 2 currently highest contributing companies to Kubernetes, Google and Red Hat, are rewarded. But there's also the other project. If you want to see more company and community statistics, as you navigate this ecosystem and make choices, you should check out DevStats, the CNCF project DevStats. We're also trying to grow the next generation of leadership and distribute this leadership across the community. Mentoring and shadowing play a big part of this.
So one example of growing next leadership positions is by shadowing someone on the release team. The release team is responsible for making sure that a Kubernetes release is stable, secure, and functional. And by shadowing such a member, you can get to follow the process, and you can even step up the next time if you like. We also like to reward the behavior that we want to see in the community. We want people who are willing to do the non-glamorous, yet that very important work that's needed to keep our project healthy. Or as Sarah Nawatni called it, chopping wood and carrying water. Examples of this include facilitating meetings, issue triage, refactoring, and community management.
We need to be sure we have a strong culture and a strong set of values that's managing this growth, or otherwise we will struggle to deliver any strategy. These values are aspirational, and we need to hold people accountable to maintain, but also improve the culture of Kubernetes. So now we got a glimpse into what it means to be in the Kubernetes community and the values that tie us together. But why really should you contribute? Contributing to Kubernetes gives you personal growth. It gives you friends. It's really exciting. But also, it can be a bit overwhelming. That's OK. And in this talk, we would like to show you why it doesn't have to be through both of our own personal stories.
So I am Nikita. I am a software engineer at Loodse, and I work remotely from India. I graduated from college just last year. I'm a CNCF ambassador and the technical lead for SIG contributor experience.
I'm Lucas. I just graduated from high school, going to university this fall in Finland. I'm running SIG Cluster Lifecycle as a chair, and I'm a CNCF ambassador doing the meetups in Finland. I also have my own company, Loodse Labs, which performs contracting for WeWorks. So I get to work on upstream Kubernetes. The Kubernetes consists of multiple groups of people that are collaborating together with a specific focus area. The main and the most common one is a special interest group, or SIG for short. Here's a map of the different community groups. Currently, I'm mostly active in SIG Cluster Lifecycle and Workgroup Component Standard, whereas Nikita is active in SIG Contributor Experience and SIG API Machinery. Next, let's hear Nikita's inspirational story about how she got started.
Thanks. So I graduated from college last year, and when I was in college, I wanted to get started with open source. I was somewhat familiar with Go and this thing called Kubernetes, and I saw that CNCF was participating in this internship program called Google Summer of Code. I applied, got selected, and did the internship program. If mentorship like this sounds exciting to you, you can even apply next year or participate in Outreach. We also hold sessions such as Meet Our Contributors, where you can ask questions to contributors and even see live code-based tours and live code reviews. So coming back to my story, when I was applying to the internship, I wanted to get to know the community better. So I went to the community repo on GitHub and learned more about the SIG that I wanted to work with, SIG API Machinery. You can find all details about how the community is structured in this repo. I got the 6 contact details from the repo and joined their Slack channel and introduced myself when I wanted to get involved. By the way, if you're not already on the Kubernetes Slack, you can join 63,000 others. That's the number of people that are there on the Kubernetes Slack right now by getting an invite at slack.k8s.io. And in our community, we love using emojis, so feel free to unleash that inner emoji power on you on Slack. After conversing with people on Slack, I was intrigued, and I wanted to know more. So I joined their meetings. All SIGs have public meetings, and anyone is welcome to join. There are also public meeting notes on Google Docs and recordings on YouTube. We also have fun in these meetings. In this meeting, everyone showed up with funny hats. So I got familiar with the SIG, and I submitted my first PR. I had a lot of questions while getting started, but everyone was super friendly and answered everything in a really friendly way, so please, please don't hesitate to ask questions at all. I also want to give a big shout out to Dr. Stefan Skibinski, who was a wonderful mentor and helped me grow a lot. Next, I wanted to write a feature for Kubernetes, for CRDs in Kubernetes. So I started sketching the design and wrote it down in a KEP. A KEP is Kubernetes Enhancement Proposal. The KEP documented the motivation and the implementation plan for validation of custom resources. After contributing code for some more time, I applied to become a member of the Kubernetes GitHub organization. You can become a member when you're an active contributor and are sponsored by 2 existing members. Then I started reviewing PRs and became a reviewer. Being a reviewer requires that you have reviewed PRs for consistently over some time and you know the area pretty well. As I got involved in the community more and more, I thought to myself, hey, I really enjoy working with this community. So I joined SIG Contributor Experience and started helping with improving automation to make contributors' lives easier. I started doing other things like issue triage. And like triaging, not all forms of contributing have to be about code. You can do project management, you can write documentation, or you can even help run contributor events. All of these are incredibly important for keeping a project healthy. Then I was about to graduate from college, so I started looking for jobs. And being a part of this community opened a lot of doors for me. And I joined Loodse, where I get to work with Kubernetes every day. And to this day, I'm still contributing. And over time, as I did more of the seemingly unglamorous tasks like writing docs, writing tests, refactoring, issue triage, I became an approver. And doing these tasks consistently over time and taking responsibility of a particular area, I became a sub-project owner and eventually a SIG technical lead. So, well, this was my story. I got involved in the community in 2017. And since then, I have learned so much, made friends from all around the world. I've been exposed to countless opportunities, something I would have truly never imagined 2 years ago. And I'm not even exaggerating a single bit here. And it truly, truly transformed my life. And I'm pretty sure it changed Lucas's life too. So let's hear his amazing story about how he got started.
Thanks. So my story started with the help of Raspberry Pis in May 2015. I wanted to run Kubernetes, but the only spare hardware I had was a stack of Raspberry Pis at home. And there was some problems in doing this, though, because Kubernetes didn't work on ARM and hardly had any documentation on how to run it on bare metal at the time of like 0-point-something releases. But I took this as a challenge, and after some time, I actually succeeded porting Kubernetes to ARM. I wanted to share this breakthrough with the wider community, so I created my first open source project on GitHub, simply called Kubernetes on ARM. This was a huge milestone for me because this was the first time somebody else could see the code I had written. And as it happened, Kasper Nissen and Martin Jensen used my project in their master's thesis called KubeCloud while I was in high school. But this was really fun. This is a great thesis. However, I didn't want it to stop there and have this as a standalone project. Instead, I wanted Kubernetes to work on multiple platforms by default. In order to make this happen, I wrote a KEP, same way as Nikita, describing how it should be done to achieve this. And I started coding after this implementation plan was merged. However, my first PR was actually rejected. So, well, through this process, I got to know more about how to contribute in a more efficient way. This, however, the one-line change you see over there is my first PR that got merged in late 2015. And I mean, it's literally a one-line change. I just remove a hard coding for the Intel AMD's architecture. But it was the first of many more changes to come. And in the same way, after contributing for a while, I applied to become a member of the Kubernetes GitHub organization, and then a reviewer after some time in this multi-platform area. After this, however, I started pivoting towards easing the Kubernetes installation experience, something that was not that good at the time. The summer of 2016, we started a special interest group. We started SIG Cluster Lifecycle dedicated entirely to this, and had KubeADM as our seed project. There I helped with stuff like coding, reviewing, release management, roadmap planning. And we actually released the first version. Here is the announcement in 1.4. And now, pretty lately, graduated KubeADM to stable to generally available in 1.13. And if you want to help out with these things, managing clusters, upgrading them, etc., configuring, you can join our new contributor sessions that we host in SIG Cluster Lifecycle. There's a recording in the community repo of new onboarding for new members, and also we're going to host more online later this month, probably. In the same way as Nikita, I also got a diversity scholarship to KubeCon, so I could meet this community that I've been working with online. It was my first conference ever, so I didn't know really what to expect, but I really liked what I saw, and I set my mind to contributing back during these conferences. So one of the 2 CFPs I submitted for KubeCon Berlin 2 years ago here in Europe was actually accepted. So I held my first talk ever at that time. It was called Autoscaling a Multi-Platform Kubernetes Cluster Built with KubeADM. It was fun. After working on Kubernetes besides high school for more than a year, just for fun, it's my hobby project, I started getting job offers. But the only company that offered something that was suitable to my situation, like living at home and all of that, in Finland was WeWorks. So as a 17-year-old, I had my own company doing contracting for Kubernetes upstream to WeWorks, something I've done ever since. And from my perspective, the only thing that really changed was that by being paid, I could contribute even more time, even more contributions, and spend more time doing this. And then stepped up doing different things, like improving security, writing documentation, planning release cycles, all of that stuff for KubeADM, and became an approver, and eventually sub-project owner. And eventually, I also became a co-chair, there are 2 others, in SIG Cluster Lifecycle. Lastly, we have the notion of servant leadership, which means that those in leadership positions serve the people around them with what's required. So what's one of the most important things with leading? It's making others succeed. Collaborating with people and following them on their growth path has been definitely the most inspiring experience for me personally. So I tend to say that I came for the tech, but I stayed for the people.
So these were our stories, and there are hundreds and thousands of others more. So whenever you see someone with a Kubernetes or a Kubernetes contributor ribbon on their badge, Ask them their story, ask them how they got started. And of course, feel free to contact us on Twitter, GitHub, or Slack if you want to know more or have questions. Thank you, and have a wonderful conference.